Hello and welcome to the Pharmacy Informatics Professor 2020 with your host, Dr. Armin Simonian. In my last episode, I talked about Pharmacy Informatics Pioneers, that small group of pharmacists from across the country who decades ago saw the potential benefits of applying information technology and automation to the medication use process. And today we have the privilege of having one of those pioneers with us, Dr. Dennis Tribble. Dr. Tribble has done an incredible amount of work in the area of pharmacy informatics. He is a researcher, scholar, lecturer. He's done multiple presentations and publications. He's also an inventor and has invented and created automation in pharmacy, has multiple patents, and so he's had a very colorful career. And what I wanted to do today was give him a chance to tell his story about his career path. So welcome, Dennis, and thank you very much for being here. And I'll hand the microphone over to you, and you can tell your story about your career path in pharmacy informatics.
Thank you, Dr. Simonian, and welcome everybody. I hope you find this useful. I'm a bit of an odd duck in this whole thing, and actually more like a lot of students now at KGI than was true when I got my PharmD back in 1974. I already had a baccalaureate degree and came in as a postgraduate. So I really think KGI is doing the right thing by bringing people in at that level. When I finished my PharmD in 74, I went and did a residency at the Moses Cone Hospital in Greensboro, North Carolina, between 74 and 75. And that's where I actually did my first automation project. I'd almost forgotten about this. But in those dim, dark days when we did IVs in the IV room, we either hand wrote or hand typed the labels. And so I introduced something called a magnetic card typewriter. I would challenge you to go look up and see if you can find a picture of it somewhere. But it was basically an electric typewriter with memory that would remember what you had typed, and you could force it to play back. And we used that to actually automate the production of IV labels on our daily IV runs. And that was my residency project for that year. For my first job out of that residency, I was at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, starting as a staff pharmacist and progressing eventually to become an assistant director. I joined that staff in 1975 and left in 1979. After I left in 79, I took the job of director of pharmacy at Alexian Brothers Medical Center in the Chicago suburbs. And I was there for approximately 7 years and wound up actually doing quite a few things in terms of automation. I actually designed and built, I didn't program it, I had somebody else who did that, but I designed and built my first pharmacy information system in a language called RPG2, which you'd have to be really old to recognize because it ran on IBM super mini computers. We built something called the Apple Closet, which had an Apple IIe, a printer, and a spreadsheet, and a plotter. And that was what all of us who were directors at the hospital used to produce our monthly reports on the performances of our departments. At roughly the same time, I got involved in putting a small computer, a TRS-80 Model 2, into my church, and they discovered they couldn't make it do what they wanted to and said, oh, Dennis knows how to do some of this kind of stuff. Let's let him try it. So I taught myself to program in a Quick Basic, which was actually written by Bill Gates, and created my church system for them. Wasn't the best, but it did quite a bit of work. Toward the end of my career at that hospital, I actually wound up leading the RFP process and ultimately the implementation process for what were known as the professional services departments. So pharmacy, lab, radiology, cardiology, respiratory care, and all those, I worked with all of those and developed a really long list of things I wished hospital information systems could do. Because remember, the notion of an EMR was pretty strange back then. And so most of these hospital information systems were pretty much built around finance. And the closest they came to patient care, by and large, was keeping track of what beds patients were occupying. As we went through looking for products that could meet the needs of the various professional services divisions, I developed a long laundry list of things that I wished those systems could do that they could not. And I actually got lured away into industry at that point. Some folks took a line from Star Wars and said I'd been lured to the dark side. But I am to work for a company who in 1986 was building an HIS product, a hospital information systems product that was based on an electronic medical record. And that was one of the best things I ever did. I had to give up a lot. I had been teaching nursing pharmacology and been very actively involved with my state profession. I was a past president of the Illinois Council of Health System Pharmacists. And I had to give all that up to go to industry, plus about $20,000 a year in my salary. And it was the best move I ever made, because I would not have been able to do the things I had done and learn the things I had learned had I not taken that risk. So that caused me to move from the Midwest back to California. I worked for that company for, like I say, about 7-8 years. Woke up one morning and realized I didn't know my family or my children. So I'm here to tell you that there are jobs you can have that you love too much. And keeping a work-life balance is hard enough even when you're not all that thrilled with the job, but it's even harder when it's all you ever think about. So I made the decision at that point to take a different job, moved to Baxa Corporation in 1994, leading the technical support and installation teams for their TPN compounder. Over the next several years, moved up to become their chief pharmacy officer, helped lead through the year 2000, the Y2K transition. That's probably old history to most of you all. You don't remember anything much about that, but the world was going to end when we switched to the year 2000, and computers really wound up having to do a bunch of things, which was kind of fun. So we got all that kind of stuff done. And I got a chance to develop some fairly novel software applications in the process. I was lured away back into the startup business in 2001 for a company called 4Health Technologies. And over the next 9 years at that company, we built the first IV robotic device ever. It was a syringe filling device. Sometimes like to joke it was the world's most successful science fair experiment. The product is no longer in the market, but we literally developed the marketplace for IV robotics in the US market. The other thing we developed, and something of which I'm actually quite proud, is the IV workflow system now known as Dosage. 4Health Technologies originated that, and I'm credited with being its inventor. It actually was a team effort, of course. So that's me being a little too proud, I suppose. But the bottom line here is that it was something of which I'm fairly proud. During that period of time, I was elected to the chair of the ASHP section on Pharmacy Informatics and Technology. I figured we had to come up with that name because if you didn't quite do it, it might come out as spit. But the bottom line, it was a lot of fun, and I got to meet and work with a bunch of folk who were really helpful and good mentors for me in the profession. And eventually I got my fellowship with ASHP. In 2009, Baxa bought 4Health Technologies, and I came back in the box. So I reprised my role as chief pharmacy officer at Baxa. And 2 years later, Baxter bought Baxa, and I wound up going into Baxter's medical affairs organization, where I actually first met and worked with the guy who is now my boss at BD. In 2014, I decided I wanted to go off and do something a little bit different, and worked out a job originally in marketing and care fusion in San Diego. And of course, I had been with them all of 3 weeks when BD announced that they were buying Care Fusion, and I thought, oh my Lord, you know, here comes my third corporate acquisition in 6 years. I'm going to be going nuts. But it was a very, very painless move and very well thought out, and easy to do. So I've now been with them for 6 years. About 2 years ago, I moved into medical affairs, and I'm still very heavily involved in analytics and doing innovation work, which I really love. So I get to see new toys and suggest them to people. One of the nice things about being in a company the size of BD is it's not just pharmacy stuff. So I had somebody bring me something the other day that wound up going to a completely different part of the organization. I think it may or may not take off. We'll see. So I now spend most of my time working on analytics, that is using the transactional data and ancillary data coming out of the core products that are sold in the medication management space, and using those to basically model behaviors in machine language and in other kinds of analytics, so that we can actually hopefully predict and better perform those kinds of things. I have 35 patents, and now is my 4th year as clinical adjunct professor of pharmacy practice at the KGI School of Pharmacy. I'm 71 years old, and I'm still working, and I'm still loving it. And I hope you can have as much fun in your career as I've been able to have in mine. Back to you, Armin.
Thanks so much, Dennis. Fantastic. Thank you for all that you've done for the specialty practice of pharmacy informatics. You've really, over the years, promoted it and had a very colorful and rewarding career. And it doesn't sound like you're stopping anytime soon. You still have that energy and that passion. I think some of the big points I got from your discussion was, number one, be a risk taker. And number two, be a lifelong learner. Love what you do, and then seek that balance in life. So thank you so much for all of those great points. And to all my viewers, if you found this interesting, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, look after the health of others. I'll continue on working on more episodes, and we'll have Dr. Tribble come back and maybe talk to us about his development of that IV robot, and also contribute to our Journal Club series where he can present a couple of articles that he actually authored. So thanks again, Dr. Tribble, and to all the viewers, hope to see you next time. Take care.